Sort of break it down like this.
Welcome to the first installment of Nerd at the Movies for our YouTube channel.
Video edition.
That's right, the video edition.
Yeah!
If you're joining us on Periscope, we love to have you. You can follow us by following us on Twitter, Two-Headed Nerd at Twitter, right?
At Two-Headed Nerd, yes.
Yeah, at Two-Headed Nerd. That's us. My name's Matt Baum. I'm one of the hosts of the Two-Headed Nerd comic book podcast. Sitting across from me is my co-host.
Greetings, I am Joe Patrick.
Into the mic.
I can't also look at the Periscope when I do that.
Yeah, we don't necessarily have to. Like I said, we're going to start feeding our YouTube channel some more stuff so you guys can see what we do and how it works. And we figured discussing all the comic book movies that are coming out is a good way to start. People want to know, Joe Patrick, what did we think of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Murderous Justice?
Dawn of Justice.
You saw this Thursday night.
I saw it Thursday night, opening night.
I saw it
with occasional guest host Dave DeMarco.
I saw it Friday afternoon, and a little backstory here. When the Green Lantern movie came out, I was so concerned that it was going to be terrible that I went to see it by myself. And I thought the only way to see Batman versus Superman is by myself. So I went yesterday afternoon with all the weirdos that go to afternoon movies during the week. They don't have jobs, or they're crazy or whatever.
One of those guys.
It was perfect.
One of those dudes.
It was perfect.
Okay, so what did I think of Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice? Hey, thanks. Fat jokes already. Woo! Right off the bat. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Hated it.
Okay, here's what got me when I first went in. Zack Snyder is a talented director. He knows how to frame a shot. He knows how to make things look good. And I thought
Zack Snyder knows how to do one thing.
Yes. But the way he set it up, at first when I went in, I was like, you know what? This could be kind of fun. It looks sort of neat. There's a big sweeping stuff. I thought it was very clever. The way they tied the intro into the last Superman movie.
Yeah.
Where we saw, Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, watching the battle in Metropolis. And it very much reinforced everything that we said we did not like about the first Superman movie. Superman was irresponsible by having that huge fight in Metropolis. A bunch of people obviously got killed and lost their lives.
Right.
And the Superman we know and love would not do that. So, in the sense that this is a direct sequel to Superman, I will say the tone...
Man of Steel.
To Superman, Man of Steel, the tone was perfect in that sense, that it was the dark, gritty Superman that we don't like.
Yes, you're right. In the sense that it is a direct continuation of Man of Steel, the tone was perfect. I mean, the tone matched the dark, gritty tone of Man of Steel.
They marched perfectly forward and made a perfect sequel for that movie. The problem with this sequel is it represents even more of everything that we felt was wrong with Man of Steel.
I'm gonna try not to do too much referencing what other people have already said about.
And we're going to try and keep this relatively spoiler free for those of you who haven't seen it.
But the reviews of this movie are savage.
Absolutely.
And
they should be.
And when I say that they're bad, I don't mean that they're just bad. I mean that they are actually savage.
And actually, the good reviews are bad.
Right. I have read some reviews this week, and I have never read negative reviews with this sort of venom behind them. That's the kind of reaction that it's inciting in critics. And in fans like myself.
And these are critics that don't care about the comics. These are professional.
They might. We don't know if they do or not.
But these are professional movie critics. Let's get into that before we get into the character stuff from a comic book nerd point of view. Just raw movie. The plot was terrible. The story was a mishmash of ideas crushed together.
There were so many different plots.
They forced you through this. So, literally, Zack Snyder grabbed you by the collar and pulled you through the story while you went, wait a minute, hold on. What was that? Not important. This is happening now. Huge leaps in logic. It was gigantic leaps in logic.
It was completely scattered. It was unfocused.
Senseless.
It had too many plot threads, and not enough of them made a damn lick of sense.
Right. And some of them served to completely override other plot threads where you're like, well, why do I need both of these things happening? I almost felt like you can take Batman out of this movie altogether. It's fine. You've got a Superman versus Lex Luthor movie. Fine in the sense of what they're doing here. Not fine that I like it.
Yeah.
Or you can take Lex Luthor out of this movie altogether and his entire story, and the Batman versus Superman thing would be serviceable,
would stand alone
for a sequel.
And
but
the runtime would be cut by a good 40 or 50 minutes, and we'd all feel way better about it.
That's the other thing. When you went to go see Batman versus Superman, did you think I might get bored during this?
I thought it was boring.
It was grueling.
There were long stretches of time where there were things happening in a technical sense, like it wasn't a black screen, so obviously there were things happening. But
it was very
the first hour plus of that movie had so little forward momentum.
Oh yeah, almost nothing.
In fact, it wasn't until like the last 40 minutes when Wonder Woman shows up.
Yeah.
That you're finally like, okay, now I get it. Like now it's like, and then the score changes to that Wonder Woman theme. That
right.
Dun, 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 like that, which is odd that it's Wonder Woman's got this like heavy, hard driving guitar theme.
Yeah.
I loved it though.
I don't know if that was the Wonder Woman theme or if that was like the Trinity theme.
They only played it when they showed Wonder Woman. They only played it when they showed Wonder
Woman. And I will say Gal Gadot looked good.
But I mean, to finish my thought, it was only when Wonder Woman showed up and inserted herself into the plot that it started to feel like, oh, this is exciting and this movie's got potential. This could be cool.
Yeah. There was no chemistry between Affleck and Cavill at all.
But then the Wonder Woman involvement is so short.
It's purely afterthought.
And then the entire last 20 or 25 minutes of the movie is epilogue. You think Lord of the Rings 3 had a long ending. This movie did not end.
This movie ended 5 times.
It went on forever.
I watched and go, okay, stop here. All right, fine. Stop here. Okay, well, you could stop here, but we're not going to. Yeah. It just kept going and going. And Wonder Woman, while she was probably the most interesting part of the film, afterthought. Complete afterthought. If you take Wonder Woman out of this movie, is it missing anything other than it's more boring? No.
I don't think she really has anything to do with the forward plot. No.
I'm not going to give anything away. They used her to sort of unveil the idea of some other characters that are obviously going to be the Justice League.
Yeah, right.
But the way they did it was so cheap and so dumb and so tacked on that it served nothing to the plot. Absolutely nothing. And they had a chance to do it earlier in the film where Bruce Wayne is, looking at the stuff that he intercepted from Lex Luthor or whatever. And they just didn't. Just glanced right over it,
Right.
Let's get into performances. We have already established the story is just bad. The story is bad. Let's get into performance.
Gal Gadot is perfectly fine as Wonder Woman. She was my favorite part of the movie.
We were both concerned she'd look too small, too frail. She looked big. She looked powerful.
She was badass. When she was fighting Doomsday, she smiled.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's Wonder Woman.
The director did take every chance he could get to put her in the deepest plunging V possible so he can see the sides of her boobs.
Yeah,
whatever. She's hot. I get it.
So I really liked her involvement in the movie, though I agree that it could have been removed and nothing really would have been lost from the plot. But there are lots of things that could have been removed from the plot.
Yeah.
And it would not have had any impact on the way this movie turned out.
Affleck's Batman.
I liked him.
I did too.
I thought he was great as Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I think Ben Affleck's Batman was really the only character that I kind of believed. Well, I'll get into it. That I kind of believed did a great job as Bruce Wayne and actually brought something to the screen. You know what I mean? I think Henry Cavill's Superman is so boring.
I don't like him.
Is so even-tempered. And he just looks confused most of the time. He just walks around. He doesn't look happy. He doesn't look sad. He looks confused and deadpan and just boring. I don't need him to put on the funny Christopher Reeve. I don't know. Well, that's whatever. But like There is no difference.
Yeah, he's got no personality.
There is no difference
He's got no
between his
personality.
Clark Kent and his Superman whatsoever. And his Superman spent 90% of the movie frowning or scowling and scaring people.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was a kid that sat behind me, started crying because he got scared. Little kid, I don't know, 7 to 9, somewhere in there, and turned to his dad and said, "Dad, why are they fighting?" Speaking about Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
And his dad said, "Somebody thought it was going to make a lot of money." And
they're right.
That sums it up.
And they're right. And everyone, the people on Periscope watching us right now, they're watching us Periscope this right now. They've got lots of opinions about the things we're saying, including our friend Michael Severe, who decided to sign up for Periscope to troll us today.
Mikey.
It was,
We'll take
somebody just said that kid sounds like a pussy.
Let's take some Periscope questions when we're done. We'll do that. Afterwards,
I don't want to do that.
we'll just take a few. When we get to the end, we'll take some Periscope questions. For now, we're talking about Cavill's Superman.
Yes, but one of the things that the people were saying, they were discussing they were talking amongst themselves about how it's going to make so much money and how it's a multi-billion-dollar flop. It's not going to be a flop, and that's the problem.
Yeah, it's going to make money.
I don't know what happens when a movie is so critically reviled.
Well,
yet still makes a gajillion dollars.
Let's get to that thought after we finish the characterization of everybody.
Yeah, okay.
So we talked about Cavill, Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg.
He definitely did it differently than I would have expected.
This was the worst part of the film for me. Like when he was on screen doing the autistic, stammering, weirdo Mark Zuckerberg impersonation, I was angry. I hated it. That is absolutely not my Lex. This guy is a total weirdo that people only respect because he's rich and he's brilliant. Lex Luthor is like the ultimate human being. He's smart, he's strong, he's tough. He just happens to be crazy, secretly crazy. And that's why Lex Luthor got to be the president of the United States once and shit like that.
I mean, he's charismatic.
He's more than capable. This Lex is a lunatic with mustache twiddling plans that don't even make sense. They make no sense. I'm not going to go into spoiler territory here, but there are things that happen to this character, including like conversation he has with some government official where he's shoving Jolly Ranchers in their mouth and going, "I want this thing that's top secret." And the guy's like, "Okay, I want to go into the Kryptonian spaceship." And the guy's like, "Okay, what is even going on there? What is happening?" Well, is he blackmailing that guy? I mean, they don't flesh out anything about Lex's character.
They talked about what was going on there. He was providing something to the government, and the government was giving them
something
concessions in return.
It was so loose, and he has this like battle with Holly Hunter's character, who Holly Hunter was very good, and in the limited role that she had, she was very good. But her character also didn't make a lot of sense either, and like the sudden Superman paranoia, like
it's not sudden. That's the thing, is that it makes sense in the context of this world. In this world, Superman is a being that came down from the heavens and had a part in destroying a major metropolitan city and ending thousands of lives.
But we
know that Superman is a hero and he was trying to stop him. And of course he didn't kill anybody except the one.
But to public appearance, it looked really bad.
Like to everybody else, to everybody in the world, Superman is not necessarily a hero. He is a threat.
But rather than having a calm Lex Luthor who is coming out and saying, "We can't trust this guy," who is charismatic, who is good looking, who, we go, "I can trust that guy. He's one of us." You have a lunatic that goes off on these long Shakespearean rants that make almost no sense. And he raises his voice comically here and there while he talks to people. It was horrible. It was the worst part of the film for me.
Yeah, he was bad. I agree.
So terrible.
I agree.
So let's get into the overarching characterization. This Superman, this Batman, this Lex, this Wonder Woman versus the characters that we have known and grown to love.
Okay.
Like now let's go to the comic book nerd side of the film. You know what I mean? Not just viewing it as a badly directed, poorly written film. But one more thought on that. The end was a special effects spaz attack that you could not even keep track of
Do you mean
what
the
was
fight?
happening. Yes. The big ending, the special effects made Michael Bay's Transformers special effects look well choreographed because this was such a mishmash and so fast with so much lightning and explosion and stuff. You couldn't even see anything cool was happening.
Yeah, it was a little difficult to follow. Yeah, I agree.
The battle between Superman and Batman, the greatest gladiator match of all time, was dumb. It looked dumb. The bat armor was dumb. Ben Affleck looked ridiculous.
The bat armor is right out of the comic books.
I get it. They could have made it look better.
I mean, there are some things that you have to accept. I don't think it looked that bad.
Iron Man's armor is right out of the comics too, and it looks pretty damn good.
I mean, but this is like literally Frank Miller's design.
I get it. I'm saying they shouldn't have gone with it. They should have made it look better, and the fight was just stupid. It was stupid, and it ended so poorly. So poorly. It was like they wrote themselves into a corner, and they went, nah, fuck it. Let's just do this. That'll get them out of the fight. You know? I mean, bad.
Yeah. I mean, so personalities.
Yeah, this segues very well into where we come down on this. Let's start with the fact that I think the reason that the fight between Superman and Batman works in the pages of The Dark Knight Returns is because it is far, far in the future.
Right. And there's history there between those characters.
They were already friends.
There's an established things have happened and there's it earns it.
Right.
This movie doesn't earn it.
Not at all.
And okay. I'm going to try to address this point without spoiling the specifics, but Batman has this line at the very end where he says something to the effect regarding Superman. He says, I failed him.
Mm-hmm.
I won't fail him again.
Right.
He says it differently, but to tell you what he actually says is a huge spoiler. And I thought to myself, you've known this guy for 5 minutes,
maybe
4.5 of which you spent trying to literally murder him.
Okay. I would say you've known him for 3 weeks trying to murder him, and you've known him for 4.5 minutes when you weren't.
Right. But yeah, they didn't earn it.
No, not at all.
So if you want to talk about personalities,
it was worse than the Spider-Man movie where the Sandman is crushing Spider-Man, trying to break him in half. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, sorry about that, dude. You know, that Venom guy, he talks a mean bargain, you know, like, oh, I didn't mean it.
I think that Wonder Woman, I think for what little we got of her, I was excited about it. I liked it.
Well, there was nothing to screw up because we got so little.
She seems like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And she seemed true to the character.
Yeah.
Especially like I mentioned earlier, where she leapt into battle.
Right.
And she was smiling. And that I was like, oh, that's cool.
Well, I think
that's Wonder Woman.
The best thing about Wonder Woman was an accident because they didn't have anything to screw up. Had they fleshed her out anymore, I bet we would have hated it. Honestly.
Well, but
like, there was so little of her in the film that there wasn't enough to mess
Zack
anything
Snyder
up.
is not in charge of plotting that character's course. It's a different director.
Thankfully.
We shouldn't have hashtagged anything. Superman, we have on the show gone on record with our feelings on this version of Superman.
Right.
To me, this is not a Superman. I am not interested in a version of Superman that thinks it's that actually puts what am I trying to say here? A version of Superman that's scared to do the right thing.
Yes.
The Man of Steel version of Superman is a character that who was raised by people who said, you know, maybe you shouldn't. Well, no.
Wait, let's just stay here. You're losing track, and I'm not editing this. That's the thing.
The Man of Steel version of Superman is a character that was raised by people that taught him
Right.
that maybe you should have let those people die if it meant preserving your secret, because
Well, Dad, anyway.
if your secret gets out, then that's bad. Yes, those words are true. If your secret gets out, that's bad. That's true. But the Superman I know is the kind of character that says, if my secret gets out, that's bad, but not as bad as it
someone
would
dying.
be is if that one person died.
Right. Not as bad as, say, letting my dad get killed by a tornado for no reason.
Yeah. Superman's dad told him to let the tornado take him away.
Yeah.
Rather than reveal his secret, and Superman went with it.
Yeah, he's been scared ever since. And Superman's not
And
scared.
in this movie, Ma Kent doubles down.
Yeah.
Because he goes to her with his big crisis of conscience, and she says, you don't owe these people a damn thing.
Yeah.
Be their hero or don't.
Right.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention the fact that, like, again, we all had a problem with Superman killing someone in the first movie.
Yeah.
The first scene we see him in action, what does he do?
Does he kill somebody?
This is not a spoiler because, I mean, you know what's going to happen. He flies a dude through a brick wall. Do you think that guy lived at super speed?
Oh, are you talking about during the desert scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
He straight up murders that dude.
I turned to Dave and I said, that guy's bones are made out of jelly.
Yes. There's no way you take a human and fly them through a brick wall and they're okay in any sense or definition.
It's true. So, I mean, it's a comic book movie, so maybe he survives.
No.
But yes, it looks bad. But yes, so telling me that there's this character that's that doesn't understand that doing the right thing above all else is what he should be all about.
Right.
That's not Superman.
No.
It's not a version of Superman. It's not an interpretation of Superman.
No, it is
It's not a modern version of Superman for a new audience.
Superman.
It's not Superman.
Okay, I'm going to take this a step further. While I liked Ben Affleck as Batman and I liked him as Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck never missed a chance to pick up a gun and shoot somebody.
Yeah.
He had guns on his car.
Yeah.
And he straight up murders people with them. I mean, like, he had a bigger body count in this movie than Keaton ever had in the old movies when he was running people over and shooting grenades at people.
See, in 1989, when Batman came out, I was blissfully unaware of the reality of what Batman was doing. He knocks a dude off of he knocks that guy off of the stairwell in the clock tower.
Yeah.
He pilots the Batmobile into a chemical factory full of people.
Yeah, that explodes
it.
You know, but to be fair, he's not shooting anyone. Batman
He's not shooting
never
guns.
picked up a gun and never shot anyone. In this one, every chance Batman had to use a gun, he shot somebody.
And everyone's defense is like, well, in the golden age, Batman carried a gun and Batman killed people. Yes, that's true. Those stories exist.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care either.
And even in Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, Batman does not use a gun.
That's not true.
No,
he does use a gun.
He does?
He's got guns on the Batmobile, but there's a line in when he's driving the Bat tank and gunning down mutant gang members. There's a box that says rubber bullets, honest.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a joke and maybe it's not, but it's there. And that's all that matters.
These were not rubber bullets.
There is another scene, I think, where he actually does shoot somebody in the face.
I don't recall that.
Well, he shoots one of the gang members in the face, but I haven't read. I have to go back and look at it.
Regardless, as good as Affleck is in the role, looked in the suit, fought, his action scenes were fantastic. The second he picks up a gun and shoots somebody, you just took me right out of it. You took me right out of it.
And so, yes, for as much as in the Golden Age, Batman killed people, and in Dark Knight Returns, Batman was super violent and maybe he killed people.
Never shot
Those
anybody.
things might be true, but do you know what else is in the Dark Knight Returns? A scene where Batman picks up a rifle that he took off of a thug, and he's with Robin, and he snaps it in half, and he says, "This is the tool of the enemy, and we don't use them."
Right. And like Christian Bale just spent 3 excellent Batman movies not shooting anyone.
Yeah.
The one time he picks up a gun, he takes it apart. He grabs a gun from a guy, takes it apart, and beats the hell out of him. You know? I mean, like, I don't get it. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of these characters. And and I don't think that this is a good movie, regardless of my feelings for how the characters are portrayed. I think this is a poor film. It was badly thrown together. It was obviously like they went back and cut in all this extra crap. You know, like the scenes, the cameos that we get and stuff were dumb and served nothing for the film whatsoever.
I mean, I don't think they were dumb, but yes, they were tacked on.
They were completely tacked on. There was too many cooks in this kitchen, and none of them seemed to understand who Batman or who Superman are. None of them. And for some reason, look, I get that they have different ideas of what justice is, but it seems like it's just my gritty justice versus your gritty justice. Not, hey, we shouldn't be killing people, or hey, we shouldn't scare people or whatever, because you're both scaring people. You're both bad. Batman is branding people and sending them to prison where they get killed. Superman is looked upon as this destructive force. It's like, it's just stupid.
Yes. So I want to point out something that Michael Severe just said on the Periscope. He said that people will say that it's about time. It's about time that Batman and Superman started killing people.
Yeah.
And doling out justice.
That's just dumb.
I don't agree.
I don't either.
I think if you want to read about a character that kills people, read about a different character.
Read about
if you
the
wanna
Punisher.
Watch a movie about where killing people is in their character.
Right. Wolverine, the Punisher, stuff like that.
Dan Slott and Mark Waid were both all over Twitter the last couple of weeks arguing with this Forbes writer that wrote this bullshit article about why it's okay for Superman to kill. And here's all the time Superman killed. And here's this and here's that. And Dan Slott says, the most beautiful tweet I have ever read. He said, there are more comic books that feature Superman as a being of bright blue energy.
Right.
Than there are comic books where he takes a human life.
Yeah. And we're not demanding we see electric Superman.
Right.
I saw that tweet too. It was brilliant.
I would argue that there are also far more instances where Superman talks about how important the sanctity of life is.
Right.
Than there are stories where he decides it's okay to end one.
And I'm sorry, I refuse to believe that something is wrong with the character, that we need to modernize him and make him grittier and scarier. That doesn't make any sense. Because if you look at Captain America and what Marvel has done with Captain America, is Captain America murdering anyone? Is Captain America running around shooting people? Do people die around him? Yes, they absolutely do.
I mean, does he shoot people? Sure, but this is a Captain America that's been to war.
Cap shows up. He keeps it clean. He is this glowing Boy Scout icon for the most part. And guess what? We loved it. Right. Everyone loved it. I mean, so I don't buy that excuse. I don't buy it at all. And I especially buy it even less with Batman.
Right.
I don't think Batman even picks up a gun in his dreams. That is ridiculous. And there are 3 dream sequences in this by Batman that are so ridiculous.
All right, I mean, we're straying towards spoilers, so we should probably not get too much into that. But Golden Age stuff aside, Batman's history of not only not using guns, but flat out hating and being angry about guns
and gun violence
is long established for decades and decades and decades and decades.
Right. And if we're going back to the Golden Age, then Superman should be leaping tall leaping tall buildings, not flying. He should be jumping around.
Sure.
I mean, come on, that's not an excuse.
So my bottom line when it comes to these characters and my argument against everybody that says Superman is boring, or I'm glad he's changing for the times, or it's modern or realistic or whatever you want to say to justify this hot mess that we've been given, is that Superman was created as wish fulfillment for the downtrodden.
Absolutely.
By 2 poor Jews from Cleveland
that were watching Nazi Germany
in the Depression.
Yeah. I mean,
or just after the Depression.
Right.
And the character, despite whatever single instances he may have done here and there that are contrary to the core of the character, there are bad stories in comics too.
Sure.
You wanted to point out all the instances where Superman has killed somebody in the comics. I will tell you that those comics fucking suck.
Yeah, they were bad Superman comics.
So Superman is a character whose sole purpose is to lift up the downtrodden, to lift up the weak and the powerless, and to inspire and to elevate and to, to hold us up when we fall and to give us hope in our darkest hour.
Right.
And to do all of these things that make us better.
Right.
The point of the character is not to say, look how cool he is punching that dragon.
Right.
Or,
but we didn't even get that. The character we get is a confused, deadpan, sad, boring man.
Yes.
And I thought Amy Adams was much more interesting as Lois Lane, honestly.
There's a quote. Let me find it. Where?
Remember, we're not editing this.
I get it. There's a quote by Christopher Reeve that I found last night. Oh, this is so slow. Christopher Reeve played Superman in the not the original movies, but the 70s movies.
Superman the movie, which after watching Batman v Superman, I came home and I watched Superman the movie to wash that out of my mouth. And I'll tell you what, it's still the best Superman movie there is.
It's my favorite movie
hands
of all
down.
time. Yeah,
and they just did it right.
So,
your quote. Come on, please.
75% of people that saw the movie liked it. Have you read the reviews?
No. That's 75%.
60% of the people that saw the movie hated it so much.
No, that's 75% were people that were excited to go see it. That's what you were looking at Rotten Tomatoes.
So here's this quote from Christopher Reeve. He says, "What sets Superman apart is that he has the wisdom to use his power for good. He has all these powers, but he's got this kind of maturity, or maybe even innocence, really, to look at the world very, very simply."
Right.
And that's what makes him so different. When he says, "I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way," everyone goes, "Oh, snicker, snicker, laugh." But he's not kidding.
Yeah.
That's Superman.
Right.
He's so sincere and so genuine and so noble.
And we did see him go through his growing pains when he was trying to figure it out as a kid and he was young. But when he puts on that suit, when he shows up in Metropolis with the suit on, he's Superman. He's learned.
Yeah.
He's ready and he's doing it right.
The lessons, here is the lesson of Superman as I feel he should be portrayed. As made so beautifully in Superman the movie.
We're getting way off the movie we're discussing.
Sure.
So let's sum this up.
Even with all his power, he can't solve everything.
Right.
He can't solve every problem.
And that's like the most interesting part of that character.
Right. Is that he knows that he's not the answer. He knows that he's there for support and for encouragement and inspiration. The lesson of the Man of Steel version of Superman is that he's got all this power. Oh my God, we should be terrified of him. And if you're Superman, it's, oh my God, I've got all this power. I should probably never use it because what could happen if they find out?
Yeah. This was just a failure on, I mean, every sense of film. It's a failure. The script is bad. The plot is terrible. The characterization is terrible. Jesse Eisenberg was, I love him as an actor. Unwatchable. Just horrible.
I mean, I watched it.
Yeah. I mean, really. And I mean, obviously, I think we're on our scale of buy it, skim it, leave it. We're both giving us a leave it.
I would tell people not to go see this movie.
That's what I said. Just yesterday, I was talking to my friend and he was like, well, should I go? It's worth seeing though, right? And I said, no, do not give them money. Don't reward this. And honestly, I am filled with dread for whatever comes next.
I mean, and I will admit, I am biased. I am a longtime comic book fan, specifically of Superman. And so I have very specific ideas of how I think that character should be.
Right.
And I understand that not everybody feels the way that I do. and not everybody views the character the same way I do, and that's fine.
Beyond that, this is just a bad movie.
I don't think it's a good movie.
No.
I went through this movie and I felt nothing.
Yeah.
Except for being mad about it
And
when it was over.
Few sighs here and there, where I went, come on, like really.
When the Marvel movies came out, and at the end of Iron Man 1, Samuel L. Jackson comes out.
Yeah.
And if you're reading the comics, you know exactly what he is at the time. And he kicks off the Avengers. When you start to see those characters together, it's a genuine thrill. Even if they are different than the way that you think they should be, if they've made alterations to the histories or whatever, seeing them together makes you so happy.
Yes.
When I saw Batman and Superman together, I thought at the very least,
that'll get me.
I thought,
that's what's going to get me.
I'll at least get a chill.
Felt nothing.
I felt nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah. There was just no chemistry.
I did get a little goosebumpy when Wonder Woman saved Batman from Doomsday.
That was cool.
And then the smoke lifted and she's standing there all tough looking. I was like, oh.
You did just totally give away the Doomsdays in the movie.
Doomsday, he's in the trailer.
Oh, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just a failure. It's too bad.
It's going to make a lot of money, and nobody in charge is going to learn any lesson from this.
Now they're going to build a whole franchise of movies on this film that basically doubled down. Like I liked Man of Steel better than this movie. I will say that. This doubled down on everything that I did not like about Man of Steel.
Yeah,
doubled down on it. Absolutely.
Superhero movies should be fun.
Yes.
And they should have at least an element of lightheartedness and humor.
Yeah.
Not that every superhero is bright and sunshiny.
No. Civil War is going to address a really huge conflict between these heroes. And there was a Civil War trailer, the latest one, right before this Superman, and people were like, yeah, that looks awesome.
Yep.
It was bright. It was colorful. They're interjecting a little bit of humor here and there. No one looks like they're trying to murder each other.
Right.
I mean,
these movies, these Zack Snyder movies are just dour. They're like funerals.
They're grim and soulless is what I called it. I called it a grim, soulless special effects spaz attack. That's what I called it. Let's take some Periscope questions.
Zach Hollowell just came on and said, wouldn't it be funny if there was a twist that this was actually a movie about the crime syndicate? That would be amazing.
Might be the only way they could fix it. Should we take it? Let's take a couple Periscope questions, shall we? Some of you guys are watching live.
Does anybody on Periscope have a question? Michael Severe won't shut up. I know he's got something to say.
Or a comment, even, either one.
He said that on Rotten Tomatoes, there was something like 9,500 people were polled, and the average review was 3 stars, which I should point out is average, not good.
That's still like 50%.
That's a C. That's a C plus.
Yeah, I don't know, walking out of the theater when you walk, like last time I walked out of a Marvel movie, which was Ant-Man, I guess.
Yeah.
People were laughing, people were joking, people were like, it was so much fun. Everybody walked out of this film silent. There were 2 kids started crying because they were scared during this movie. Kids should not be crying during a Superman film. I'm not saying I need it to be rated G, but come on, man. Well,
I can't wait for the rated R director's cut.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because, I mean, is it going to be more scenes of Amy Adams in the tub naked? Or
I will say they did every chance they had to get Amy Adams nude or wet or in an extremely sheer outfit. They went for it.
How many broken Zod necks do we give this movie? That is the question from Periscope.
I would have, see, on a scale of broken Zod necks, I give it all of them. 5 out of 5 broken Zod necks.
Well, hold on.
Here's why.
What's the scale?
That was the worst part of Superman, so it's a bad thing.
Okay, so
it's like it's like a Razzie, like 5 out of 5 Razzies.
Right.
5
it's
out
like
of 5.
A golf score. You don't want it to be high.
5 out of 5 broken Zod necks.
I give it 11 broken Zod necks.
Okay.
Let's wrap it up. It's over.
Guys, thanks a lot. This is our first experiment with our YouTube channel, Nerd at the Movies. Let us know what you thought of Superman v Batman. You can go to the forums. We'll have some stuff posted there. THN forums.boards.net.
You got it.
And we'll have this posted up on YouTube real soon here. We're going to do more of these. We want to know what you thought of them. So send us your comments and stuff. You can find us at twoheadednerd.com, where we post our regular show, the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast, and the Two-Headed Nerd Answer of the Week every week. If you want to play in those, either of those, go to our website. All the information there is there, how to play. Download the show. Thank you so much for playing along. What's our next movie?
Next movie is, I don't remember what order they come out. I know that Doctor Strange. Oh yeah, it's Civil War.
Civil War is our
May.
next movie. So
Civil War's in May.
We'll be back to discuss Civil War.
If you'd like to come back for a much different video experience, come back for our Civil War review, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot, guys.